At first, very good morning, students. This is Dr. Amresh Pattnaik from AMRESH'S. So today we are going to discuss about breathing and respiration part 2. This is exclusively for plus 2 first year biology. So today we will discuss about breathing and respiration part 2. So before we are starting this topic and explanation, if you are new to this channel, then please subscribe this. After subscribing this channel, so you have to press the bell icon and all notifications with the new uploaded video you will be getting. जो माने ए चैनल को नुआ आछंती से माने प्रथमे सब्सक्राइब कर दियंतु करदिला परे ता पाखरे थिबा ए बेल आइकन टिकु चिपि नियंतु बेल आइकन टिकु चिपिकी ऑल नोटिफिकेशन ऊपर क्लिक कर देले आपनकर जेतिकी नुआ वीडियो एई चैनल रे अपलोड हबो सेगुडी को आपण को पाखरे प्रथमे पहुंची जिवो. So let's start with today's session. So today we will have a glance on respiratory system in human. Aji ame respiratory system in human bisare janiba. So here man is a terrestrial animal who respires by lungs and a pair of hollow air-filled bags situated in the thoracic cavity, one on either side of the heart. मनीष जड़े स्थल भागरे रोहुथिबा गोटे प्राणी सी किभली रेस्पायर करे जानछ दैट इज बाय लंग्स फुसफुस द्वारा से तार श्वासक्रिया करिथाय. ए पेयर ऑफ हॉलो एयर फिल्ड बैग्स सिचुएटेड इन द थोरासिक कैविटी. थोरासिक कैविटी होची हमर बक्ष गह्वर छाती. ए बक्ष गह्वर भितरे गोटे जोड़ा एयर फिल्ड बैग्स बा वायुपूर्ण थली गोटे जोड़ा अछि जोटा कि आमर हृदपिंडर बा हार्ट रो उभय पार्श्व रे अछि गोटे गोटे ताको आमे लंग्स बा फुसफुस बोली कहिताओ. All vertebrates from amphibians to mammals have a pair of lungs as the respiratory organ. If we will start from amphibians, उभयचर प्राणी ठू आरंभ करी mammals जदि स्तन्यपायी प्राणी पर्यंत आमे जिबा all vertebrates आमे मेरुदंडी प्राणी मानक भितरे amphibians बा उभयचर प्राणी ठारू mammals बा स्तन्यपायी प्राणी पर्यंत आमे पहुंचले समस्तंकर गोटिए जोड़ा lungs थाए as the respiratory organ. So it is called pulmonary respiration. Respiration by lung is known as pulmonary respiration. Okay. If you study the total respiratory organs, respiratory organs, the question will arise, what is respiratory organ? The organs of our body which is meant only for respiration is known as respiratory organs. It includes nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, trachea, lungs, alveoli, and rib cage and diaphragm. What are they? Nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, trachea, lungs, alveoli, rib cages, and diaphragm. So these are the respiratory organs we are going to discuss. What is respiratory organ? Now, it comprises of a pair of lungs and the airways leading to and from the lungs, forming the respiratory tract. Jodi respiratory tract hame dekhiba to it comprises of a pair of lungs, gotiye joda फुसफुस, the airways leading to and from जो airways अच्छी जे कि lungs रो बाहर को भीतर को आसुची that forming the respiratory tract. से रास्ताटी होची श्वासक्रिया रो रास्ता. The respiratory tract begins with the nose containing a pair of opening called as external nostrils. जोड़ा को हमें ये जो respiratory tract अच्छी सी कौन अच्छी ना नाकरे that containing a pair of opening जोड़ा के हमें external nostrils बोली कही थाओ बा ओडिया रे हमें नाक फुड़ा बोली कही थाओ. So through which the air enters and ends with the finest fine branches of alveoli after passing through the larynx, trachea, bronchi and bronchioles. एयर जेतेबेले एई नोस्ट्रिल पाखक आसी थाए नोस्ट्रिल पाखरु कोन हुए ए एक्सटर्नल नोस्ट्रिल पाखरु से कोठी जाए ना दैट अल्वियोली पर्यंत जाए अल्वियोली पर्यंत पहुंचबा पूर्वरु से लैरिंग्स ट्रैकिया ब्रोंकाई एंड ब्रोंकियोल्स मध्य देई से गति करिथाए If we'll compare the human respiratory system of male and female, we'll find just you can see here both of it. Here we can find the larynx here. This is larynx. Okay. In case of male, this is female. In case of female, you will find larynx here. Then the trachea or the windpipe. This are connected to this larynx. Larynx को लगी कि जो एटी अच्छी आमर एर्थवर्म बा जिया भली देखा जाउची ये होची हमर विंड पाइप ये होची हमर विंड पाइप बा ट्रैकिया then we'll find here the right and left superior lobe in case of lungs. This is male lungs and this is female lung. Okay, here we'll find right superior lobe, right left superior lobe, bronchial tree, bronchi, right middle lobe, pleura, right inferior lobe, left inferior lobe, and here you will find the middle of thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. This structure is called as diaphragm. This is called as diaphragm. So in the respiratory system, what things we'll find? The first is nasal cavity. What we'll get? Now we'll get first. This is nasal cavity, nose, mouth, larynx, left lung, diaphragm, throat, esophagus, trachea, right lung, bronchi, capillary network and venule, arteriole, bronchiole and alveoli. The total structure you can see here, this is alveoli and this is the main part and the main role it will play during transformation or the transmission or the transport of respiratory gases. How it will occur, we will study later. Let's start with the nose, the first respiratory organ in our body. Here you will find nose. So in this nose you can see here the external portion which projects in front of us a triangular structure. This is the triangular structure you can see here. This is the triangular structure which is projects out supported by the frame of bone and cartilage, because this is bone and these are cartilages. Okay, these are cartilages called external nostrils or external narynx directed downwards. Okay, next is the nasal cavity is separated from oral cavity by the horizontal palate. Nasal cavity here and oral cavity in this portion. So this is nasal cavity and here oral cavity. So nasal cavity and oral cavity are separated from oral cavity by horizontal palate. So palate will be there to separate. This is horizontal palate. Okay. Palate is divided by a bony partition which is known as nasal septum. This nasal septum into left and right nasal chambers. You can see, students, this middle one. Okay, this middle one. It is made up of bone and it separates both this chamber and this chamber. So this middle one is known as nasal septum. A small proximal part on each side is lined by hairy skin and constitutes the vestibule. Okay, here it constitutes the vestibule. Hairy skin will be there in the small proximal part on each side. The hairy skin and it inside of this you will find vestibule. Next will come about pharynx. Pharynx, as we know, as will go from nose to inward, you will find this is pharynx, right? Is here. Okay, This is pharynx. This portion you can see, this is pharynx. Okay, so nose portion, this nose portion is over. After that, this is pharynx, and pharynx is again divided into two parts. The part which is closely towards the mouth, this is closely towards the mouth, and this is called oral pharynx or oropharynx. And towards the nose, here you can see this is towards the nose, this is called nasopharynx. So pharynx is two types, one is oropharynx, one is nasopharynx, and here it is both respiratory as well as digestive in function. यार दुईटी गुण थाए, गोटे रेस्पिरेशन रे साहाय्य करे आ गोटे डाइजेशन रे. So let's know more about pharynx. It is a region common to both digestive and respiratory system. ये होची गोटे रीजन जे कि बोथ डाइजेस्टिव आउ रेस्पिरेटरी ए दीटा सिस्टम पय से होची उद्दिष्ट होई थाए. The pharynx is differentiated into an anterior and upper nasopharynx. The pharynx is differentiated into two types. What are they? One is nasopharynx and the anterior, and the lower oropharynx and a posterior laryngopharynx. Okay, so if towards the mouth, it is known as oropharynx. If towards the nasal chamber or the nostril, it is known as nasopharynx. Then the pharynx is a passage common to both air and food. Pharynx is all the passage in which both air and food it is common. So it is known as common passage. Where two passages cross each other, then we'll find the glottis. What is glottis? The opening of the nasopharynx into the windpipe is located on the floor. आमर जो pharynx दुई प्रकार थिला, गोटे oropharynx, गोटे nasopharynx. This nasopharynx opening into the windpipe, which is located on the floor, while that is called as the gullet. That is called as the glottis, which is the opening of the nasopharynx into windpipe and is located on the floor. But what is gullet? Now gullet is the opening of the oropharynx into the esophagus. Gullet is the opening of the oropharynx into the esophagus located above. If the opening is towards esophagus, this is gullet, and if towards the nasopharynx, this is glottis. So we can say the glottis is the opening of the nasopharynx and gullet is the opening of the oropharynx. Okay. To avoid the problem, food particles entering to trachea at the time of swallowing, so the glottis remain covered by the epiglottis. So what we are doing, ଯେତେବେଳେ ପିଲାମାନେ ମନେ ରଖିଥିବ ଆମେ ଖାଇଲା ବେଳେ କଥାବାର୍ତ୍ତା ହେବା ପାଇଁ ବାପା ମା ମନା କରନ୍ତି, କିମ୍ବା କିଛି ଚିତ୍କାର ଛାଡ଼ିବା ପାଇଁ, ରଡ଼ି ଛାଡ଼ିବା ପାଇଁ, କିମ୍ବା ଆମେ ହସିବା ପାଇଁ ଜୋରେ ମନା କରନ୍ତି. କାହିଁକି ଜାଣିଛ? ତ ଆମର ଖାଦ୍ୟନଳୀ ଉପରେ ଗଲେଟ ଆଉ ଶ୍ୱାସନଳୀ ଉପରେ ଗ୍ଲଟିସ୍ ଥାଏ, ଆଉ ଶ୍ୱାସନଳୀର ଉପର ଭାଗରେ କ'ଣ ଥାଏ ନା ଏପିଗ୍ଲଟିସ୍ ଥାଏ. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିବା ସେତେବେଳେ ଶ୍ୱାସନଳୀଟି ବନ୍ଦ ଥାଏ ଏବଂ ଶ୍ୱାସକ୍ରିୟା କଲା ବେଳେ ଖାଦ୍ୟନଳୀଟି ବନ୍ଦ ରହିଥାଏ. ଯଦି ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଖାଇଲା ବେଳେ ଆମେ ଯଦି ଚିତ୍କାର କରିବା, ରଡ଼ି ଛାଡ଼ିବା, ହସିବା, ଜୋର ମଜା କରିବା, କଥା ହେବା, ତେବେ କ'ଣ ହେବ? ଖାଦ୍ୟଟି ଆମର ଶ୍ୱାସନଳୀ ଭିତରକୁ ପଶିଯିବ. ଫଳରେ କ'ଣ ହେବ ନା ଖାଦ୍ୟଟି ଖାଦ୍ୟନଳୀ ଭିତରକୁ ନ ଯାଇ ଶ୍ୱାସନଳୀ ଭିତରକୁ ପଶିଗଲେ ତାହା ନାକ ବାଟେ ଦେଇକି ବାହାରକୁ ଭାତ ପଳେଇ ଆସେ. ତେଣୁ ମା ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ମୁଣ୍ଡକୁ ଧରିକି ଟିକେ ପିଟି ଦିଅନ୍ତି, ପାଣି ଟିକେ ପିଇବାକୁ ଦିଅନ୍ତି. Okay, so to avoid the problem of food particles entering into trachea at the time of swallowing, the glottis remain covered by epiglottis. Okay, glottis टा सबले epiglottis द्वारा कवर होइक रही थाए. गाओ खाद्य खाइबा समय कोनोसी फूड पार्टिकल जेमती ट्राकिया भीतर को न आसे सेति पई से कवर होइक रही थाए. Then we'll find here we can see this structure. This is nasal cavity. Okay, this is nasal cavity. This portion you can see, this is nasal cavity, and this is pharynx. Okay, this is pharynx, this is nasal cavity, and here you will find this larynx or the sound box of the vocal cord. You can see here this is larynx, and here this is this cartilaginous structure, the segmental structure. This is called trachea. Then these two are the lungs. Then this and this is bronchi, and this here you will find this alveoli. Alveoli, if you will the expand, you will find here bronchioles and alveoli is like this. Okay. Next will come larynx. The structure you just see, this is anterior view. This is anterior view. Okay. In this anterior view, you will find this is upper one, upper portion. You can see this. It is epiglottis. Here, this is hyoid bone. Okay, hyoid bone. Here, this thyrohyoid membrane is this. Okay, this thyroid cartilage, which is Adam's apple. This ए आडाम्स एप्पल पिला माने जेतले हम गळ घंटिका बोली कहथाउ गळ माने जेतले पानी पियंती हमर गळारे देखिथिबो गोटे बड़ हाडटी बाहर को फुली आछि तीन गुणिया हाडटी पानी पिला को से ऊपर तळक हेइथाय आ मुख्यतः प्रोमिनेंटली देखा जाय कोथरे ना मेल मानकर पुरुष मानकर गळरे देखा जाय that is called thyroid cartilage and called as Adam's apple. You will find here. Okay, here this person will find Adam's apple. Then cricothyroid ligaments are found here. Cricoid cartilage you will find here. Cricotracheal ligament you will find here, and these are the thyroid glands. Okay, thyroid gland, and these two you can see here. This is parathyroid glands. Okay, fourth notch parathyroid glands are there, and down of that you will find this portion. Okay, this portion is trachea, and tracheal cartilages are there because trachea is made up of tracheal cartilages. Okay, so what is larynx then? It is the first enlarged part of the trachea, that is the voice box, as it contains the vocal cords. The thread-like structure which is present inside the voice box, they are called vocal cords. The vibration of the vocal cord produce the coordinated sound. If the vocal cord will vibrate, then it will produce a coordinated mixed sound which is good to hear. Larynx is a triangular box-like structure. Larynx टा केबोली ना triangular box-like structure. एबोली थिबा larynx टी. The cartilage in the larynx include a pair of thyroid cartilage, which are thyroid cartilages जे कि ventrally present है, और ring like cricoid cartilages जोड़ा कि anterodorsally present है, और pair of arytenoid cartilages. Okay, केते प्रकार cartilage अछि? तीन प्रकार. गोटे होची thyroid cartilages, गोटे होची cricoid cartilages, आ गोटे होची anterodorsally present जे pair of arytenoid cartilages रे अछि. The thyroid cartilages join ventrally, forming a projection, so called Adam's apple. आमे तो पूर्व चित्र देखि देइछे जो प्रोजेक्शन दा बाहर को बाहरी थाए thyroid cartilage joint हला परे that ventrally forming a projection जोडो को आमे Adam's apple बोली कहि थाउ. प्रत्येक पुरुष पिलांकर पुरुषंकर जो माने सरू सरू पतला पिला थिबे तांको बेकर देखिबो से हाड़ गुडी को पूरा एम एक्सटेंडेड हेके भली बाहर थिबो. पानी पिला बेले ये टिके ऊपर को तळ को होथिबो. ओके, then we'll find vocal cords. If you'll see anterior and posterior view, we'll find here this is the epiglottis present. Okay, you will find this epiglottis, or we can say it as adhijihva ame kahithau odia re. This is thyroid membrane, thyrohyoid membrane. This is because this is hyoid bone. If this hyoid bone covered with thyrohyoid membrane, then this cuneiform cartilage is present here. Corniculate cartilage is present here. Arytenoid cartilage is present here, as well as arytenoid muscle is present here. Okay, so this is cricoid muscle. Both are member of this. Cricothyroid ligaments are there, and it is cricoid muscle. So the true vocal cord, if you will find, this is, you can see this is vocal cord. The true vocal cord are there. Again, this is thyroid cartilage. This is the vestibular fold. This is fatty pad, thyrohyoid membrane, body of the hyoid bone. Here the same thing, thyroid cartilage you'll find here. Laryngeal prominence you'll find Adam's apple, that is here. This is Adam's apple. Okay, then cricothyroid ligament is here. Then cricotracheal ligament is here. So this tracheal cartilages, you can see this portion is trachea and is made up of tracheal cartilages. This portion is made up of tracheal cartilages. Vocal cords. These are the two pairs of the mucous membranes fold that extends into the lumen of the larynx from the outsides, from the sides. जदि साइड रू आमे देखिबा साइड रे कोन अछि ना दीटा pair of the mucous membranous folds. Mucous means snoisica. Membranous folds जोड़ा अछि and that extends up to the lumen of the larynx from the side. Side रू lumen larynx रो lumen पर्यंत, lumen means cavity. तर cavity पर्यंत जदि से extend हेता है, so that is we can say those are vocal cords. Okay. The lower pair of cords are known as the true vocal cords and the upper are known as the false vocal cords. जोड़ा तले अछि जो पेयर टा ताको हमें true vocal cords बोली कहि थाउ एवं जोड़ा ऊपर अछि ताको हमें false vocal cord बोली कहि थाउ. Then the vocal cords are usually thicker. Vocal cords are usually thicker and longer in men than in women. Thus the men produce a lower pitch sound than the women. जेतले मेल आमे जेतले कथा होचे पुरुष माने सेतले अरे हेलो कहूचे स्त्री लोक माने कथा हेले हेलो एभली तो पिच साउंड कार अधिक बुझियला the men produce a lower pitch sound than women. Women मानकर pitch sound टा क्लियर थाए वॉइस टा भलो सुबे आउ मेल मानकर pitch जेहेतु लोअर थाए सेमान को वॉइस टा हमको रफ सुबे हर्ष स्वर सुबिधा. Then we'll find trachea. The larynx passes into, here we can find the larynx passes into windpipe for the trachea, which is about 10 to 12 centimeter long and 2.5 centimeter wide, extends through the neck into the thoracic cavity. So from the neck to the thoracic cavity, the windpipe or the trachea is extending. It's about 10 to 12 centimeter long out 2.5 centimeter तार width रा तार प्रस्थ टा तार length रा होची केते ना 10 to 12 centimeter long. The tracheal wall around the passage is lined by the mucous membrane containing cilia and the goblet cells. So जो tracheal wall अछि ता around जो passage टा अछि से lined by the mucous membrane श्लेष्मिका झिल्ली. सी कौन रखी था ना सिलिया एंड गॉबलेट सेल रखी था. गॉबलेट सेल तो जान ग्लाइकोजन डिपोजिशन सेल्स गॉबलेट सेल्स सिलिया रूमो भलिया जो स्ट्रक्चर था द सिलिया. The trachea divided into bronchi and bronchi into the lungs. The trachea here divided into bronchi, then bronchi now enters into the lungs. So here one thing is different, that is hyaline cartilage rings are replaced by the plates. Okay. The rings are there, hyaline cartilage rings are there. Before that, now here it is replaced by the plates. Then we'll find lungs. At the entry of the thorax, you will find here entry into the thorax. Trachea divides into the first pair of branches. Like this is called primary bronchi. This is called primary bronchi. Each primary bronchus now enters into the lung, lodged in a pleural cavity of its own. Because lung ra jo cavity achi, that cavity is known as pleural cavity. Okay. So each primary bronchus joda rahela that enters into the lung lodged in the pleural cavity. There is a pair of the lung in thoracic cavity, one on either side of the heart. Heart ro both side re amar kon achi na pair of lungs achi thoracic cavity bhitare. The left lung is smaller and has a cardiac notch and has two lobes, and these lobes are right lung is larger and has three lobes. तो आमे जानिले ना लेफ्ट लंग टा होची छोटो से होची कार्डियक नॉच तार गोटे अछि आउ कोन कार्डियक नॉच चलला पे तार दीटा लोब अछि लेफ्ट रो दीटा लोब but right lung larger era tinta lobe अछि three lobes are there in the right lung. Each lung is covered by two pleural membrane contains the pleural fluid. So pleural fluids are there inside the pleural membrane. So we can say each lung is covered by two pleural membrane containing pleural fluids. And inside the lung, primary bronchus divide into the secondary and tertiary bronchi that further divides into the bronchioles. प्रथमे primary bronchi टा secondary और tertiary bronchi सृष्टि करे तापरे कौन करे bronchi सृष्टि कर साला परे से secondary और tertiary bronchi परे से कौन करे ना bronchioles further it is secondary और tertiary bronchi साला तापरे से branches सृष्टि करे से branch को हमें bronchioles बोली कही थाओ So each bronchioles subdivided into the alveolar ducts. प्रत्येक bronchiole बर्तन alveolar duct सृष्टि करिଥାଏ and each duct terminates in a small thin walled sac like alveolus which contains alveoli. ये जो alveolar duct रे जहाँ अछि ताको हमें alveoli बोली कहिथाउ. Now each alveolar duct opens into the alveolus or the air sac. बर्तमान ये जो alveolar duct रहिला से होची alveolus किंबा तर air sac रे से open हेई थाए. एठी हमें देखि परिबा this is epiglottis, larynx, trachea, the pleural membrane, alveoli and pleural fluid. This is bronchiole. Okay, this is a bronchi divided into bronchioles here, and here this is diaphragm. Okay, so here bronchus, bronchi, bronchiole, then alveoli, then pleural folds are present here. You can see. So likewise, we can know now how these things will happen in case of the lungs. Okay, we know now the each alveolar duct open into the alveolus or the air sac. Now you can see this structure here. Okay. Next, we'll find alveoli. And here, alveoli, it is the site of gaseous exchange. First of all, it helps in gaseous exchange, and the structure of alveoli you can see here. This is the structure of alveoli. Here you can find these terminal bronchioles. Smooth muscles are present here, and the deoxygenated blood from the pulmonary artery will be coming here. Oxygenated blood from the pulmonary vein will be coming here. This is alveolus. Okay, this is alveolus, and these are capillaries. These are capillaries. And the alveolar duct you will find here, the alveolar pores you will find here. This total is known as alveolar sac. Okay. So alveoli are tiny hollow spaces which opens through the alveolar ducts. Then the alveoli collapse following expiration, and this condition is known as respiratory distress syndrome, RDS. RDS. That is respiratory distress syndrome. The alveolar surface in contact with air is moist by the mucus. जो surface टा होची alveolar surface टा अछि जदि air सहित से contact करे is moist by the mucus. जो mucus बा स्लाइसी को झिल्ली अछि ता द्वारा से mucus स्लाइसी टिके मिसी गला परे से ओदालिया हे जाए. That is called moist because moist हल्ला परे ही gaseous exchange पे ताको सुविधा हेई थाए. Okay. And the last part of this respiratory system will find rib cages and diaphragm. Rib cages and diaphragm. The lungs here, if you see, we can see this structure. The lungs are contained in the thorax of the body. Division between the neck and the abdomen. Between the neck and the abdomen, the lungs are present in the thorax region. Means amara prushta desare. Means amara bakhya gohara madhyare. That is called thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity or thorax region. Thorax is closed compartment bound to the neck by the muscle completely separated from the abdomen. Abdomen kono? Now this portion is abdominal portion. Udara gohara. That is called abdominal cavity. Udara gohara. And this is called thoracic cavity. Bakhya gohara. So total these two portions are separated by this middle one. Middle one is known as diaphragm. Middle कौन को जाए? The diaphragm को जाए. There are 12 pairs of the ribs which encircles the thoracic cavity from the sides. केते पेयर अछि? ना total 12 pairs of ribs are there. 12 जोड़ा पिंजरा हाड़ आम शरीर बक्ष गोहर रे अछि. There are 12 pairs of ribs which encircles the thoracic cavity from sides. ए साइड रु हमर से thoracic cavity को जे encircle करिछि से होछि 12 जोड़ा पिंजरा हाड़. So ribs are three types. One is true rib, one is false rib, one is floating rib. Okay, true rib, false rib, and floating rib. First two ribs, first to seventh pair attached to both thoracic cavity, vertebra, and sternum. That is called true ribs. Okay, এটা আমার true rib. Then false ribs, যদি false rib को ଯିବା 8 to 10 pairs of false ribs are there. They are attached to costal cartilage of the seventh rib. Seventh rib পর্যন্ত মানে 8 ରୁ 10 seventh rib ର coastal cartilage ରେ ଏମାନେ attach ହେଇଥାନ୍ତି 8 9 ଆଉ 10 ଏଇ ତିନିଟାକୁ ଆମେ false ribs ବୋଲି କହିବା। जेहेतु मेन चेब्रम बोन जोड़ा कि चेस्ट बोन अच्छी मेन बोन रे जेहेतु अटैच हे नांती नेक्स्ट दुईटा ए दुईटा जे अटैच हे नांती ए दुईटा को हमें 11th and 12th pairs of the bones are known as floating ribs आको हमें floating rib बोली कहबा काहे कि ना एमाने मेन बोन से तो अटैच न होई हमरो अटैच हिचंदी कोठी ना 10th number rib रे माने अटैच हिचंदी so it is called floating ribs। So here the muscles that connects to adjacent ribs are called as the intercostal muscles। जो muscle एथरे अटैच हेइथांती ताको हमें intercostal muscle कहिथाउ। intercostal muscle होची दुई प्रकार गोटे होची external intercostal muscle and internal intercostal muscles। So external intercostal muscles are inspiratory muscles which run obliquely downward and forward or inward from rib to rib। गोटे rib रु आ गोटे rib को से downward obliquely downward or forward or inward से movement करिथाय that is called inspiratory muscles। External intercostal muscles are the expiratory muscles, these are called inspiratory muscles। Internal, this is external intercostal muscle is known as inspiratory muscle, internal intercostal muscles are known as expiratory muscle which run obliquely from the downward and backward or outward। So you can see here breathing in and breathing out, in the breathing in portion how the lungs are and in breathing out portion how the lungs is। You see in the breathing in when the air is coming in this way then it will go to the both of the lungs it is going, and in outer trachea breathing out from both the lungs air is moving through this to outside atmosphere। So this is breathe out and this is breathe in, so out breath and in breath you will find here, and the diagram if you will see diaphragm then abdomen falls back here and abdomen expands here। Just you see the diagram of diaphragm and you will guess and night you will find what are the difference between out breath and in breath, the structural difference you will find। Okay, so breathe in and breathe out, you can see the how the chest expands, ribs their diaphragm contracts, is breathing out the chest contracts, lungs etc. things are we'll study in the next class part 3। Okay, so this is for today part 2 respiration and breathing plus 2 first year science biology। Thanking you, thanks for watching, bye bye।